Hi there, this is Greg the Masked Gamer, and I'm coming to you with just exactly what everyone needs, yet another list of top 10 games of 2024. Because we don't have enough of those, but it feels like something you gotta do, so it's something I'm gonna do. For those of you who are new to my channel, this is a place for COVID cautious folks to talk about board games. You are perfectly welcome to be here even if you are not COVID cautious, provided that there is no harassment, minimalization, or denialism of any kind. With that said, I am here by myself today, so I am going to remove my mask, and you get to see my face while I try to still figure out why my camera is so crooked. Like you could see one corner of the table and not the other corner of the table. I don't know. It's wild. Anywho, I'm a very lo-fi channel. If you've never been here before, I'm not going to have those cute little graphics coming up at the bottom of your screen. We're just going to deal with it, and that's going to be how it works. Some caveats on my top 10. So first, these are games that I have played for the first time in 2024. Some of these may have come out before 2024. They're still on my 2024 list. There are 3 games in my collection that came out this year that I have not gotten to touch yet that will, if they end up on a list, will be on next year's list rather than this year's list. I'm going to say those out loud just for record. That is Clank Legacy 2 and Ascendancy and Townsfolk Tussle. Both Ascendancy and Townsfolk Tussle I'm going to be trying to do an unboxing of this week, and some playthroughs as well. Okay, I think that's it. So before I go into the top 10, let me do some honorable mentions. There's not many honorable mentions, but we're going to do them. Honorable mention number 1 is The Bad Karma's Curse of the Zodiac. This is a game that is on my honorable mention list because the technology that it's built on is so new and so different and has so much potential. You'll see plenty of videos of me doing playthroughs of this on the channel. It's like an electronic board, an electronic dice, and all of this cool stuff. The game itself didn't make my top 10 just because there's other games on my top 10 that I liked more, but I had a great time with it, wanted to mention it. They are currently in a late pledge state for the standalone sequel, which is Cthulhu themed, which is wild. They have a Vampire the Masquerade role-playing-ish game coming out on the same platform, and then next year they're going to be launching Sword and Sorcery. So they're trying to grow all of that. Highly recommend you check out the Taboo system. It's pretty cool. Second honorable mention is actually going to go to a cute little game called Storyberg. I've only played the tutorial, the introduction. I did it on my channel. It's a new designer. He designed this game with his daughter. It's adorable. The writing is cute. It's got all the kinds of mechanics I like in it. I'm really excited to play more of it, and I wish him the best. And finally, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I went through a nightmare trying to receive that game. It was the most stressful fulfillment experience I've ever had. I did still try it when it came out. That's why you haven't heard much from me for the last 2.5 weeks or so, because I have blitzed my way through the entire first cycle. I completely understand why people love it. I completely understand why it is people's favorite game. It is not my favorite game. It is so thoroughly luck and dice driven. I don't care what y'all say about skill level. There's no skilling out of getting 30 1s and 2s in a row. No, I'm not lying. I actually rolled 30 1s and 2s in a row at one point during it. I would have had to reset that game 10, 11, 12 times if I didn't just start cheating and saying, well, I didn't lose, well, I didn't lose, well, I killed that, well, I killed that. I still had a good experience with a lot of it, but way too many feel-bad moments for it to be anywhere near a top 10 for me. I want to try the second cycle at some point after a break. Maybe it'll grow on me more. Maybe I don't know. I have a lot of very complicated feelings around Aeon Trespass Odyssey. But with all of that said, here is my actual top 10 games that I have played for the first time in 2025. Coming in at number 10, we have Dawn of Madness. Bum-ba-dum-ba-bum. Lo-fi. Dawn of Madness is a horror-based narrative game, is how I would describe it. It has the most graphic, dark writing I have ever seen in a board game in my life. So I love it because I'm a big horror person. There's a lot of very fiddly things about the actual gameplay mechanics. They've come out with a few like story mode things to simplify it. With Wave 2, they're going to be coming out with a save system so that it's not 8 hours long every session. You can do it in 2-hour bits and chunks. I've made my own house rules around it for moving forward in the future. I did play through each of the Wanderers once using the real rule set and got to the finale successfully, but it's more of a chore than I wanted it to be. Even though it's a chore, the narrative is just so up my alley that this was going to make my top 10. I've put it on the wayside for now. Wayside, if you're COVID cautious, you know what I'm saying when I say wayside. But I put it on the wayside for now, waiting for Wave 2 to come out, which is going to hopefully have some improvements as well as the other 4 Wanderers. And then I'm going to really, this is going to be a deep dive that I'm going to put many hours into eventually. So that is, at number 10, Dawn of Madness from Dimension Games. Next game is a game that was not on my radar in any way, shape, or form. People talked about it multiple times. I said, yeah, whatever, clicked past it. I got advertised it multiple times, said, yeah, whatever, clicked past it. I finally eventually watched a part of One Stop Co-op Shop's playthrough of the first scenario and decided to get it. It came at a time where I just happened to have a week free, so I managed to play through it in the whole first half of this game. Before having to put it in a box, and that is Tidal Blades 2, Rise of the Enfolders. I did not play Tidal Waves 1. I'm not going to play Tidal Waves 1. Apparently it's a completely different thing. But this is a campaign dungeon crawler type experience, and it has the thing that I still have to play the second half of it. The biggest demerit of this game is that the box has no storage solution at all. So everything just kind of got thrown in there halfway through the campaign, and at this point in time, I'm like, I don't even know where I put things in the box. I don't know which cards I did, which cards I didn't do. I'm scared to pull it back out and do the second half of it, but I want to. I want to the extent that it's sitting on a chair instead of on a shelf to remind me that it's there and it haunts me all the time. But this game has a few really cool things about it that really made it stand out for me this year. One, the way you use actions in this is by putting things on a grid in kind of a tic-tac-toe fashion, and then you activate everything that's in a line with the card that you put down. And then when you fully fill a line, you have to clear those cards out, and now you have your grid open again. And the puzzle of that is just so much fun for me. I love puzzly stuff, and like the number of times when playing it, I'd be like, oh wait, no, if I put that there instead of there, I could do this instead of that. It's just, I love it. Each scenario is so completely unique. This is not a dungeon crawler where you run around killing things. The goal is always something other than killing things. And if you spend your time killing things, you're going to lose. And I think that's fantastic. Each character feels unique, has their own like personal goals for each scenario to try to fulfill, kind of like in the way Gloomhaven does, but in a way that's more thematic to the characters themselves. If you fail a scenario really badly, you get a bonus in the next one. If you succeed a scenario really well, you get a demerit in the next one. Everything about the structure of this campaign does so much to like make it work in ways that campaign games often fail in. And this game has dice, and I hate dice. I hate games with dice. Dawn of Madness also has dice, but in that you can actually like fully mitigate it and just get auto successes. But this also has dice. But because of the fail forward, fail backward mechanic, because of the way its initiative system works, the way the Nexus cards work, even with my bad dice luck and not cheating on my dice, I have still successfully completed every scenario in the first half of this game. Some of them were close, some of them 3 of my peeps were dead, etc., but I made it all the way through. Really loved this game. Loved it so much. Can't recommend it enough. I love it so much that when I'm done with it, I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to re-gift it to somebody who I also think would enjoy it. So that's at number 9, Tidal Blades 2. Number 8. This is a game that I am pretty sure, I am 100% sure is not a 2024 game. I discovered this game in 2024. Therefore, it is going on my 2024 list. And if you don't like it, there's a million other channels out there. And that is Massive Darkness 2. This is another dungeon crawler game. This is from Simon Games, so there's tons and tons of minis. Probably too much minis. Definitely too much minis. This game, and this is kind of like the fantasy version of a game that's higher up on my list, which you'll probably guess what it is because you'll know, because if you know Massive Darkness 2 and you know that other game, you know what that other game is. The thing about Massive Darkness 2 that makes it stand out for me, besides a ton of other dungeon crawlers, is the asymmetricality of the characters in this. I have never played a dungeon crawler game where every character class feels more different than they do in Massive Darkness 2. It is not a matter of, oh, I have this ability instead of this ability, I have this card instead of that card. Each character class in Massive Darkness 2 has a completely different mechanic of how it plays and how it works. In fact, you'll find a video somewhere else on my channel where I'm like, here's all the character classes and where I rank them and how that's different than what I thought it would be and what these classes do and how it's so cool. So I'm not going to spend, a half hour doing that here. But it's, all the monsters are samey in it, but the characters are so different, and it's just so fun to see the amount of thought they put into how they could make these characters as different as possible. I'm still trying to track down this druid box, and I can't because I'm not going to pay $125 for 1 mini and 2 cards. I'm just not going to do it. But they are doing an expansion that's coming to crowdfunding this year, which I'm hoping will have the druid on it. I'm going to be all in on that. In fact, I'm saying it here, you know it's a lie. That is going to be my last crowdfunding thing that I do, and from now on I'm going to stick with secondary market and retail. We all know I'm lying to myself, but I am telling myself I'm going to get the Massive Darkness 2 all in. Absolutely adore it. Very fun. Massive Darkness 2 at number 8. Next, number 7. This is another game that had never crossed my radar, that would have never crossed my radar. I hate the art style in this game so much. This is another casualty of the one-stop co-op shop, and this is one of their absolute favorite games, and it is on my top 10 list, and this game actually inspired me to buy another game, which is also on my top 10 list that shares a similar mechanic, which you'll all figure out what it is if you know what those both are when you see this game, and that is Bullet. Bullet Heart. Bullets. I hate anime stuff. It's not my thing, but this game is like all in, all anime, all cutesy, all the kind of things that I don't like. And so like the background music that I play when I'm playing this solo is like stuff I hate, but it just fits the game, so I do it. This game is supposed to like simulate those video games where you have like streams of bullets flying at you and you have to dodge them and what have you. And the way they do that is you pull these tokens out of a bag and you like slot them down these columns, and you have to like try to manipulate those bullets coming at you into certain like organizational patterns that trigger based on the cards you have, and then you punt them back at your opponent or at a boss if you're playing it solo or co-op. Each character is very asymmetrical. Each character has a heroine version that you can play as a hero or a villain version that you can play as a boss, either solo or co-op. I went out and I bought a ton of other expansions for it because they're all like, it's just wild, and the game plays in like 10-15 minutes, which is, again, not a Greg thing. Greg does not like quick, fast games. Greg likes deep games, but Bullet is the exception. Bullet just sings. Everything about it just sings. And so that is Bullet in at number 7. Yep, number 7. I almost lost count. At number 7 on my list. Thank you, Mike at One Stop Co-op Shop. I really appreciated you for sending me this way. Okay, next. Number 6. You'll know this was coming because of Massive Darkness 2. This is also from Simon Games, except it's horror themed, it's Cthulhu themed, it's my jam, it's Cthulhu Death May Die. I now have like 4 boxes worth of this. You're going to see videos of this being played on my site all the time. This is a game that's really easy for me to film on my site because it's just so wild and so silly, and it doesn't matter if you do rules wrong, and you can do silly voices, and like it's just a total blast. When I play this with friends, I always end up playing one of the characters that just like role-playing wise is obnoxious to be around. So I'll just be like playing as the little girl with the fireballs, running around yelling fire, and they're like, "What are you doing, Greg? We're playing a game." And I'll be like, "I'm having fun. This game is so much fun. There is no horror game in the world that is as much silly fun as Cthulhu Death May Die. If you don't like Cthulhu Death May Die, you don't have a heart." And that's all I have to say. And again, this is another game that's all dice-driven, but it doesn't feel gross to me because there's ways to mitigate out of it, no matter how bad your luck is. All right, cool. So that is Cthulhu Death May Die at number 6. Boom. Number 5, one of the biggest games of the year. Many people love it. Many people hate it. Many people love it and want it off their shelves because it takes up too much space. I agree, it takes up too much space. Some of the most fiddly stuff in the world comes with Primal, but also some of the most interesting and amazing gameplay mechanics I have ever encountered. They have found a way to reinvent the boss battler genre with the way they do this monster instinct system where the monster doesn't get a turn, it only reacts to what you do. So there's this whole combination of, do I want to push for damage? Do I want to try to avoid triggering that card? Should I trigger that monster's instinct now because it'll be worse later? A deck building mechanic to it. Every character is so different and has their own deck, their own upgrade paths, their own like different equipment they can use to accentuate or de-accentuate what their deck builds are. It's just so crunchy in all the right ways. There is no game in my collection that has as high highs and as low lows as Primal does. And yes, I'm looking at you, Kingdom Death Monster, and yes, I'm looking at you, Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Both of you have extremely high highs and extremely low lows, but not in the same way as Primal. And the difference, one of the biggest differences is, in both of those two games, if you have an extreme high, you smash the boss and the game's done. If you have an extreme low, your party gets wiped out and the battle's done. In Primal, you have so many highs and lows in each individual battle. And no matter how good you are at this game, no matter how bad you are at this game, whether you win or lose ends up coming down to that last turn, and you're always like, can I just eke out this little bit of thing? And then when you do, it's just it's so much dopamine. Primal, if you're looking for like a big lifestyle game, this is the one I would go with. I would go with Primal, hands down, no questions asked. Period. If you want to paint the giant minis, they're freaking gorgeous. They're all as big as or bigger than the Phoenix from Kingdom Death Monster. Love it, love it, love it. Primal: The Awakening. That was number 5. Number 4. This is another game that I am really surprised ended up being a game that I love and enjoy. It is in it's a theme and a genre that I hate. I hate sci-fi. I hate outer space. There are 3 board games that have broken through that barrier and been games that I liked anyway. This is one of them. This is the only one of those that I've played for the first time this year, so I'm not counting Nemesis on this list. Nemesis is not on the 2024 list. Nemesis Retaliation will be on the 2025 list and probably on the top 10. I absolutely love Unsettled by Orange Nebula. You've only seen one playthrough of this on my channel. It's a hard game to do playthroughs with. There's a lot of brain. There's a lot of questions because each of the planets has a whole new rule set, and the sense of discovery in this game is completely unmatched. Like, so much discovery, so much. Oh, that's so cool. The writing is so clever. They're so punny. I enjoy reading their stuff so much. They have a solo-specific game coming out, I hope next year, called Spirit Fire. I still have no idea what Spirit Fire is, other than I'm going to love it because I love this. And if I love something they did in outer space, I'll love anything I touch from them. So that at number 4, great co-op, great solo experience. Not for the faint of heart. Like you need to think, and you need to strategize, and you need to learn from your mistakes. It's a giant puzzle, and Greg loves puzzles. So number 4, puzzle games, Unsettled. So good. Next. So now we come to my top 3. These are my top 3 games of the year. At some point this year, all of these games were my top 1 game of the year. First of all, this first game is the game that was number 1 when I first started my channel this summer, and I was talking about my best solo games of all time. And this is now only at number 3 for this year, so this shows you how good the other 2 games ended up being. But number 3 is Tainted Grail: Kings of Ruin. I devoured the crap out of this. The story was so good and engaging. It felt like my 2 characters were real living people in the world. The combat system and diplomacy system were so much improved from the first Tainted Grail. They didn't get old as I went. The bosses were so unique, and the way you had to the way in order to defeat them you had to whittle away and do things chapter over chapter to make them weaker, make yourself stronger, find out their weaknesses. giving all three of the villains such amazing personalities and presence in the world. The storytelling was so good. I'm almost crying. I'm almost brought to tears by how great this game was. I've recently, with the folks that I used to play Gloomhaven with, we just started playing Tainted, Grail, Fall of Avalon, 3 players, which I'm hoping moves smoother than it did when I was trying a true solo. We're enjoying it so far, but this sequel just knocked every ball out of every park. There are 3 points in it that I feel like there was design errors along the way that were difficult to push past, but I mean, other than that, tremendous achievement, absolutely fantastic. Number 3 for 2024, Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. Okay, coming in at number 2. Number 2 is another controversial one. Some people really love this game, and some people really hate this game. Firstly, I want to say the combat in this game is my favorite combat I've ever played in a board game. So it's not my number 1 game because of other reasons, but the combat was spectacular. There's a lot of demerits to this game, which is it's probably one of the most grindy board games you'll ever play. It's hours, and many hours longer than it needs to be. I did tons of house ruling to cut down on those hours. I struggled through the final stretch of it. Some of those last bosses I thought were just too hard, too swingy. But in terms of overall experience, my number 2 game of the year is the Safarian Guard by Sky Kingdom Games. Sky Kingdom? I think it's Sky Kingdom Games. The battles in this are done with a chip pulling from a bag mechanic, which is something I tend to like, but the chips are very large, they're very hefty, they feel good pulling them out of the bag, and every character manipulates those chips in completely different ways. The bosses manipulate these chips in completely different ways. It's luck driven, but also it's strategic, because you draw what you got, and then you have to figure out how to make the best of it. I just learned, actually, I think it was last night or this morning, I just learned about the difference between input randomness and output randomness. And this game excels at input randomness. The randomness happens, then you figure out what to do with it. It's not like a game where you decide what you're going to do, then you roll the dice and see if you succeeded or failed, which I tend to hate in almost all instances. Except for Cthulhu Death May Die and Masked Darkness 2, which I love them. But anyway, that's great. The grindiness of this, when you first start the game, feels so fun. It feels like you're playing a very old Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy game on your NES system. Not SNES, NES. Where you're just walking, you do a fight, walking, you do a fight, walking, you do a fight. And to the extent that every time I finished a battle in this, I'd be like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all in on that. But by the time you get to campaign 3, campaign 4, it does start to drag on. The heroes become more complicated to play, which is fine, but the monsters don't change. So you're fighting the same monsters with different characters, and it does start to feel sort of samey towards the end. But my overall experience with this was just so great that it still sits at number 2 on my list. This was the game that took up the most time, the most brain space when I wasn't playing it, etc. of 2024 is the Safarian Guard. Finally, my number 1 game of 2024 is a game that I never would have looked at. I never would have touched. I'm going to say it's manga-y. It's not really anime-y. It's manga-y. It's semi-sci-fi-y, but cyberpunk, so it's not really sci-fi. I also think this is a 2023 game that I first discovered in 2024. I discovered this game because of Bullet, because it uses that basic, put things in the grid and then swap them to do stuff, but it adds a lot of other layers onto that. And this game is Tamashi, Chronicles of Ascend. You are I don't know what you're a consciousness that could jump from body to body, and each body will have different abilities. And then you create patterns using tokens, just like in Bullet. There's also an area control mechanic where you're moving around a city trying to discover tiles to get other bonuses. There's monsters that are chasing you that you have to kill. If you die, you jump into another body instead of just dying. It comes with, the core box had something like 10 scenarios, all of which had really a quite different feel to them, even though the mechanics were the same and kept building and building and adding more and more to that. And then depending on what ending you get, you unlock other cards that become available in future ones. I ran out, I bought all the expansions, haven't opened them yet, can't wait to. I played this entire game true solo. I did not play this two-handed solo. I did not play this true solo and feel like, gosh darn, I should have played this two-handed multi-solo. The true solo in this game works. And that happens so, so rarely, especially from Awakened Realms, who usually have games that have true solo, but if you play a true solo, you're FUCK'd. No, this game works true solo. I could not get enough of it. I will replay it with friends. This game is going to never leave my shelf. This game is going to get played for the rest of my life. My #1 game of 2024. My heart to it. Tamashi, Chronicles of the Sith. So, that was my top 10. As a bonus, we're going to talk some Board Game Arena. Yes, I discovered Board Game Arena this year, and I do have some favorites on there. I've learned some games that I don't like on there. But I'm just going to pop in right now with my top 3 games that I had discovered on Board Game Arena this year. At number 3 is Draft and Write Records. This is a flip and write game. I've never owned a flip and write game. I never will own a flip and write game. I would not play this game if you pulled out the box and showed me the table of it. Showed it to me on a table, but on Board Game Arena, Draft and Write Records is just such a blast. There's so many routes to victory. It's so quick to remember where you're at if you're playing it async. The art is cute. There's just something so addictive about it. Number 3, Draft and Write Records. Number 2, game of the year on Board Game Arena for me is The Crew. The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game that I will never get to play in real life because I will never have people around a table who can commit to playing that game at a player count that will work. I've only been able to play through the first few scenarios because I just haven't been able to dig up an online group of people willing to go through the whole thing with me. If you want to play The Crew with the Masked Gaymer on Board Game Arena, comment, message me, reach out, let's set something up, let's figure it out, because I really want to play through that whole thing. And finally, I just discovered this one this week. This is because of Foster the Meeple, ranking it as their #1 game of actual board game of the year, a game that I also will never buy because I know I'll never table it because it's multiplayer really only, and it's large and you really need 4 people for it to shine, is Fromage. Fromage is a worker placement game where you're making cheese. Greg hates worker placement games. They are not my jam. But this game is just, the theming is so cute. The turns play so fast. You have these 4 little asymmetrical versions of what to do. So it's engaging. The amount of times that you feel blocked by another person, which is one of the competitive mechanics of those kinds of games, is very minimal. So it is kind of a solo game, which is what I tend to not like about worker placement games, but that tends to work pretty well on Board Game Arena. Absolutely enjoy it. Check out Fromage. And with that, I have made it in 30 minutes, my top 10 games that I have played for the first time in 2024. I am keeping a better list of games and playtime next year now that I'm doing this whole channel thing, so hopefully next year it will be better. Maybe next year by this time I'll have learned how to edit videos and you'll get graphics instead of instruction manuals. Probably not, let's be honest here. Oh, this is a good time for me to say what are my most excited about games of 2025. Let's take a minute or two and talk about what I'm looking forward to the most next year. And this is by no means exhaustive because this is just what I happen to remember. I was going to pull that up on my computer, but it seems somehow there we go. It had at first seemed somehow that I had gone full screen and wasn't able to see. Hopefully you can still see me while I'm doing this. Let's take a look at the list of games that I have that's coming next year and see if I can say what my most excited games about are. These are a bunch of words that are not real words and they're not going to get edited out, so it is what it is. Okay, so here are the games that are coming next year that I am most excited about. I am most excited about Spiritfire. I mentioned that. That's from the creators of Unsettled, and it's going to be a solo-only game that I know absolutely nothing about, but I'm very excited for. We have Vampire the Masquerade Milan Uprising, which is on the Tebrew system. I mentioned the Bad Karmas before, and their electronic system, so this is a Vampire the Masquerade game on that, which I'll be playing with the same people that I currently play Arkham Horror LCG with. I'm very, very excited for that. We have Horror on the Orient Express, which is a Cthulhu-themed game that has been described as a blinged-out version of Clue, I think, by some folks. The production design of it looks great. You build this little train. You have to figure out who's cultists on the train before like the world ends and all that stuff. It looks very, very much in my realm of happiness. My most anticipated game of the year next year is Grim Coven, which is we're just going to call it a Bloodborne-themed boss battler by Awakened Realms. I tend to like most of what they put out, and this on theme is just great for me. It's not a campaign game, so I'll be able to like modularize it as necessary. Very excited for that. And that's it. I mean, I have, for the record, I have a list of, that was from a list of 34 crowdfunding games coming to me next year. And those are the ones that I'm most excited about from those 34. All right. With that, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Do not forget, keep those health bars full. Thank you and have a great day.